My life was a whirlwind of meetings, sales pitches, and endless negotiations. I'm Anna, 38, and I've climbed my way up to sales director at one of the top car manufacturers. My world was about hitting targets and sealing deals, not romance or late-night dates. I had a plush apartment in the city center, a sleek, top-of-the-line car, and a wardrobe that screamed success. Love? It never topped my priority list. Then Alex walked into my office, a fresh hire, 15 years my junior, with a smile that could knock you off your feet. Anna, right? I've heard a lot about you. Looking forward to learning from the best, he said, extending his hand. His confidence was off the charts for someone so new. Hope you're ready to work hard, I replied, taking his hand. It was firm, confident. This place doesn't run on smiles alone. Alex nodded. Absolutely. I'm here to give it my all. Our interactions were professional at first. But Alex had this way about him, a charm that was hard to ignore. He'd drop by my office with reports, always eager to discuss strategies or the next big sale. His enthusiasm was infectious, and I found myself looking forward to our little meetings. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Alex knocked on my office door as I was about to leave. Fancy grabbing a bite? My treat. I've got a few ideas I'd love to run by you. I hesitated. It wasn't like me to mix work with personal time, but something about his offer was tempting. Sure, why not? But I'm choosing the place, I said. Dinner was a revelation. Alex wasn't just a pretty face with a sales pitch. He was smart, insightful, and, surprisingly, wise beyond his years. He listened intently as I shared some of my experiences, nodding and throwing in his 2 cents. As the night wore on, the conversation shifted from work to personal stories. I found out he was passionate about cars, not just selling them, but understanding their mechanics, their soul. He had this dreamy look when he talked about his favorite models, which made me laugh. You're like a kid in a candy store, I teased. He shot back, and you're the tough cookie everyone's afraid to crumble. Heard the rumors, you know. But I think there's more to you. His words caught me off guard. No one had dared to speak to me so frankly in years. It was refreshing, unsettling even. As we parted ways that night, he said, "Thanks for giving me a chance, Anna. Not just at work. Tonight was nice." I found myself smiling all the way home. Alex had managed to chip away at the wall I'd built around myself, and I was both terrified and thrilled by it. Our relationship evolved quickly after that night. His attention wasn't just flattering, it felt genuine. He'd leave notes on my desk with silly jokes or quotes from our conversations. And his bright, beautiful way of looking after me made my doubts about the age and income difference seem insignificant. But love isn't just about the butterflies or the stolen glances across a crowded room. It's about choosing to stand by someone, to merge your lives together with all the risks it entails. When Alex asked me to marry him, my heart wanted to leap out and say yes, before my brain could catch up with all the reasons it was a bad idea. You sure about this, Alex? I mean, look at us. I could practically be your... Stop. He cut me off, his eyes serious. I don't care about the age thing, Anna. I love you. That's all that matters. And your money? Come on, we both know I'm not with you for that. His words were like a balm to my nagging doubts. Alright, but we're doing this as equals, got it? We split everything down the middle. Wouldn't have it any other way, he replied, pulling me into a hug. So, we did. We combined our lives, our finances, everything. I even helped him climb the ladder at work, sharing tips and advice that only years in the industry could teach. He was a quick study, impressing everyone, including my boss. Our partnership seemed unshakable. Life with Alex was like stepping into a fast car with a full tank, ready for the long haul. We decided early on to handle our dough like a team, splitting expenses down the middle, half to us, half to a joint account we set up. Makes sense, right? Keeps things square, I said, laying out the plan on our kitchen table, scattered with bills and our laptops. Damn straight, Alex agreed, tapping away on his calculator. And hey, about the apartment. It's ours, babe. Your name's going on that mailbox too. I cut in before he could get all shy about living in my upscale pad. His grin was all the thanks I needed. And when I handed him the keys to a shiny new car a week later, his eyes about said it all. For real, Anna? This is too much. Consider it a bonus for being a top-notch husband. Plus, you gotta look the part at work, right? I winked, tossing him a box with a high-end suit. Work was where we really kicked butt together. I poured everything I knew into this guy, teaching him the ropes, the shortcuts, the long plays. Before long, Alex was nailing it, climbing the ladder till he landed a big promotion. Head of the department, can you believe it? He beamed, still a bit dazed. Proud? I'm beyond. You earned it, with a little help from your favorite mentor. I teased, but inside, I was all warm and fuzzy. We were a dream team. Then, out of nowhere, I hit a snag. Started feeling off, like my engine was running low. After a few days of brushing it off, I headed to the clinic. The doc's frown told me it wasn't just a bug. We need to run some tests, Anna. Might take a few days. My mind raced to work. Shit, I've got a mountain of stuff to handle. Alex, you think you can cover for me? Just till I get this sorted? Alex, ever my rock, didn't blink. Of course, babe. You've got nothing to worry about. I'll handle it. I spent the next few nights at the clinic, my laptop glued to me, prepping everything Alex needed to keep the wheels turning at work. Despite feeling like crap, I made sure he had every detail, every document, every plan laid out. Just follow the playbook, Alex. It's all there. I told him over the phone, my voice barely above a whisper. Got it, boss, he joked, trying to keep the mood light. You just focus on getting better. I've got this. But as the days stretched out and my return to work got delayed, I leaned on Alex more and more. Each call, each email, I could sense he was feeling the pressure, but also thriving under it. You're doing great, Alex. Just a bit longer, I promise, I reassured him, but the guilt was gnawing at me for dumping this on him. Don't sweat it, Anna. We're in this together, right? You'd do the same for me, he said, and I could hear the smile in his voice, mixed with a hint of something else. Pride? Excitement? Hard to tell. Back on my feet and back at work, I barely had time to catch my breath before my boss called me in. Anna, you've been away. Alex stepped in, and, well, he nailed it. He started, not beating around the bush. I braced myself, expecting a pat on the back for training him so well, but instead, I got sucker punched. He's taking over your position. You'll be moved to a different department. Lower profile, he finished, avoiding my gaze. I was floored. All the work I'd poured into those negotiations, every strategy, every word of that winning speech, was mine. Yet, here I was, getting sidelined in my own game. But, I laid the groundwork for that. It was all me. I wanted to scream. But I bit my tongue, thinking of Alex's career, his pride. Understood, was all I managed, my voice a mix of defeat and disbelief. Coming home, I found Alex, all smiles and victory. Heard you got the news. Babe, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen, he said, but his eyes didn't match his words. They were dancing, celebrating. Yeah, sorry, doesn't quite cut it, Alex. This was my deal, my job. I shot back, anger bubbling up. Hey, let's not get nasty. We're in this together, right? He replied, his tone too light, too dismissive for the bomb he'd just dropped on us. That's when the dynamic shifted. My paycheck shrunk, while his ballooned. And with the money came a change in Alex. He started throwing around words like breadwinner and freeloader, stinging me every chance he got. I tried to shake it off, remind myself of the man I married. He loves me, this is just stress talking, I'd tell myself, but the doubts were creeping in. Then came the nights he wouldn't come home, the excuses so thin you could see right through them. Working late, babe, big deals on the line. He'd text, but the silence of the house screamed the truth. Finally, I'd had enough. We need to talk, Alex. This isn't working. Where the hell are you every night? I demanded, cornering him one morning after he'd sneaked in at dawn. Oh, come on, Anna. You should be grateful I'm still here. A guy like me, with options? He threw back, his arrogance filling the room like a bad smell. That was the moment I knew. The man I loved, the partner I trusted, was gone, replaced by this stranger, spewing insults and taking me for granted. Every day at the office turned into a nightmare faster than I could have ever imagined. My work, my ideas, everything I had poured my heart and soul into, were now being presented under Alex's name. He had compiled an extensive report, a masterpiece of all my projects, and handed it over to the board as his own. The revelation was a gut punch, leaving me winded and betrayed. The board's decision was swift and merciless. Anna, we're letting you go, they said, their words clinical, detached. Your performance has been lacking. The irony of their words, considering my work was flourishing under Alex's guise, wasn't lost on me. I was being fired for failing to perform tasks I hadn't even been credited for. Shell-shocked, I returned home, a storm brewing within me. Alex was there, humming some tune, oblivious to the bombshell about to drop. We need to talk, I stated, my voice ice-cold, cutting through the pretense of normalcy. He turned, that familiar smirk playing on his lips. Sure, what's up? It's over, Alex. I know everything. How you claimed my work as your own, how you got me fired. I spat out, each word laced with venom. For a moment, his facade slipped, revealing a flicker of guilt, but it was quickly replaced by defiance. Oh, come on, Anna. You're being dramatic. I just played the game better. Played the game? You backstabbed me, Alex. You destroyed my career for your gain. My voice rose, a crescendo of anger and hurt. He shrugged, that smugness returning. Look, Anna, I got tired of always being the second fiddle. I saw an opportunity and I took it. This was about survival. About advancing. You would have done the same. I was aghast. How dare you? I would never do what you've done. I brought you into my world, taught you everything, and this is how you repay me? Alex's response was cold, calculated. You're just upset because you're not on top anymore. Face it, Anna, this is how the world works. I'm just better at it than you. The finality in his voice, the outright dismissal of our history, our love, was the last straw. I want a divorce, Alex. And you need to leave. Now. His laugh was bitter, filled with a disdain I'd never heard before. Fine by me. I was getting bored anyway. You think you're the only game in town? I've got prospects, Anna. Without you holding me back, I'll reach heights you couldn't even dream of. Watching him pack, a part of me wanted to scream, to rage, to make him see the magnitude of his betrayal. But another part, a quieter, more resigned voice, whispered that this was the end of a chapter. A painful, brutal conclusion to a story I thought would have a happier ending. After discovering the betrayal, I didn't waste a second. The shared account we had was bone dry. Alex had cleaned us out, transferring a whopping $320,000 to his account. The shock of it nearly floored me, but I wasn't about to let him get away with it. I reached out to a lawyer, someone known for not playing nice when it came to dirty games like this. Sitting across from my lawyer, I laid it all out. He took everything, every damn cent. Can you believe that? I said, my anger boiling over with each word. The lawyer, a no-nonsense type with a reputation for being a bulldog in court, didn't even blink. I've seen worse. Let's go after him. You're entitled to half of that money at the very least. he declared, already flipping through the legal texts with a predator's grin. So, we sued. Dragged Alex and his sneaky theft into the glaring light of a courtroom. The process was grueling, dragging my already battered heart through the mud, but it was worth it. The court didn't have any patience for Alex's flimsy defenses. He claims he earned that money. My lawyer scoffed during one of our prep sessions, shaking his head in disbelief. But we've got the bank records, the documents. He's going down. And go down he did. The judge saw right through Alex's act and ordered him to cough up $160,000. It wasn't about the money, not really. It was about drawing a line, showing him he couldn't just trample over me and walk away scot-free. With the lawsuit out of the way, I pushed forward with the divorce. I was done, completely and utterly done. I want my name back, I told the lawyer. My life back. The divorce papers were a mere formality after the legal battle we just won. I watched as Alex signed them, his face a mask of defeat. Anna, can't we? He started, but I cut him off. Save it, Alex. It's over. You made sure of that, I said, my voice cold, final. Walking out of that office, I felt lighter, despite the turmoil that had become my life. It was over. I was free of him, of us. My former surname felt like a shield, a piece of me I'd reclaimed from the wreckage. But life had one more curveball to throw at me. During a routine checkup, still reeling from the divorce and the legal drama, the doctor dropped a bombshell. You're pregnant, she said, her tone gentle, knowing how much my world had already been rocked. Pregnant. With Alex's child. The news was a jolt, a confusing mix of joy and fear. For a moment, I considered telling him, but the thought was fleeting. No, this was my new start, my chance to build something beautiful from the ashes of my past. I'm moving forward, without him, I resolved, cradling the burgeoning new life within me, ready to face whatever came next on my own terms. After the storm had passed, I set my sights on a new horizon. I wasn't just looking for a new job, I was on the hunt for a fresh start, a place that would value me and the new life I was about to bring into the world. I sent my resume to several big names, hoping my reputation as a sharp mind in the industry hadn't been completely tarnished by recent events. The response was more than I could have hoped for. Interviews lined up back to back, each company more eager than the last to bring me on board. It was during one particular interview that I found what I was looking for, a company that didn't just see me as a potential asset, but as a person. We've heard a lot about you, and we're impressed. The hiring manager started, his tone sincere. We're ready to offer you a competitive package, and yes, we're talking a significant bump in salary and a work schedule that fits your needs. I leaned in, ready to negotiate, but also to lay all my cards on the table. I appreciate that, really. But there's something you should know, I'm expecting. The manager paused, his expression unreadable for a moment, but then he smiled. Congratulations. That's not a problem. We offer remote work options, and we'd be more than happy to accommodate any appointments or needs you might have. It was more than I had dared to hope for. Thank you, I said, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. I won't let you down. With the job secured, my next project was my apartment. It needed a makeover, not just a fresh coat of paint but a transformation into a home ready to welcome a child. I pored over designs and themes, wanting everything to be perfect. In between setting up the nursery and picking out the softest, safest baby gear, I started attending courses for expectant mothers. It wasn't just about learning the basics of childcare, it was about connecting with other women going through the same whirlwind of emotions and changes. We shared stories, advice, and more than a few laughs about the wild ride of pregnancy. Okay, so I read that babies can hear us in there, I mentioned during one session, tapping my belly gently. Started talking to yours yet? One of the moms chuckled, patting her own bump. Oh, all the time. I'm pretty sure mine's already sick of my voice. It was a community, a support network I hadn't realized I'd needed until I found myself in the thick of it. Every book I read, every class I attended, I felt more prepared, more excited for what was to come. As life started to look up for me, word got around about Alex's rapid descent from his short-lived throne. Mutual friends, the kind you keep out of courtesy rather than affection, couldn't wait to spill the details. Heard about Alex? One pinged me, almost too eager. Bombed big time at your old place. They canned him. I couldn't help but feel a twisted sense of vindication, but it was bittersweet. Really? That's unfortunate, I replied, keeping it cool but curious. What happened? Got too big for his boots. Messed up some major deals, lost the company a fortune. Now he's out on his ass, drowning in debt. Fancy cars and designer suits don't come cheap, huh? The friend typed back, a virtual smirk in their tone. The news didn't surprise me. Alex had always had a taste for the finer things, a taste he clearly couldn't afford on his own. His downfall was inevitable, but I didn't take pleasure in his misery. Well, maybe just a little. Then, out of the blue, my old employer reached out, trying to woo me back with promises and apologies. We were wrong, they said. We need you back, Anna. You were the brains behind it all. Tempting as it was to gloat, I declined. Thanks, but no thanks. I've moved on. Found a better fit, I told them firmly, my pride and my new job giving me all the satisfaction I needed. Amidst this, Alex had the audacity to reach out, his message popping up unexpectedly. Anna, we should talk. Heard about the baby. I think we can make this work, for the sake of our family, he wrote, desperation seeping through his words. I stared at the screen, incredulous. After everything, he thought he could just waltz back into my life. Family? You've got a funny way of showing you care, Alex. I'm doing just fine on my own, thanks, I replied, my laughter bitter. His pleas continued, but I wasn't the same woman he left. Look, Anna, I'm in a rough spot. I made mistakes, but we can start over. For our child, he tried again, playing what he thought was his ace. I couldn't help but laugh, a real, hearty laugh this time. Start over? With you? Alex, you're not listening. I'm happy. Truly happy. Without you. Our child will have everything they need, and you? You're not part of this equation. Good luck with your debts. And with that, I blocked him. The chapter of my life with Alex was closed, sealed shut with the knowledge that I was better off. I had my child, my dignity, and a future bright with promise. Life took on a new rhythm with the arrival of my son. The challenges and heartaches of the past seemed to fade into the background as I navigated the joys and sleepless nights of motherhood. I remember calling my mom, excitement bubbling in my voice. He's here, Mom. You're a grandma. I told her, barely containing my happiness. Her response was immediate. I'm catching the next flight out. You're not doing this alone. True to her word, Mom was by my side in no time, her presence a comforting constant as I found my footing as a new parent. It wasn't long before we settled into a routine, and with her help, I was back at work, feeling more determined than ever. The idea of buying a house started to take shape in my mind, a place where we could grow as a family, a stable home for my son and enough space for Mom to stay comfortably. During one of our late-night talks, as we shared a pot of tea and watched the baby sleep, Mom brought up the topic of Alex. Heard your ex is running himself ragged, juggling jobs to keep afloat, she said, a note of concern in her voice. I sighed, the mention of Alex still a sour note in my otherwise harmonious life. Yeah, well, he made his bed. Now he has to lie in it. Mom nodded, then hesitated before adding, you could sue him for child support, you know. It's his responsibility too. I shook my head, the thought unappealing. No, Mom. I don't want his money. Or anything from him, really. We're better off without that tie to him. I want to close that chapter for good. Mom seemed to understand, but she pressed on gently. Just think about it, okay? For your son's sake. The topic weighed on me, but deep down, I knew my decision was final. I wanted a clean break from Alex, a future untainted by the past. The idea of the house became a plan in motion. I found myself browsing listings, imagining our lives in each space. "What do you think, Mom? Too ambitious?" I'd ask, showing her pictures of backyards and spacious kitchens. "Nothing is too ambitious for you," she'd reply, her faith in me unwavering. "You've proven that time and again." My son's laughter filled our apartment, a sound that made every hardship worth it. My career was on an upward trajectory, my personal life rich with love and support. The house, when we finally found it, felt like the last piece of a puzzle clicking into place, a symbol of new beginnings and hard-won peace.
All right, everyone's presentations are done, Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me and began to speak. "There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only." "Absolutely right." His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. "I'm leaving." After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick, is something wrong?" Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, "I'm thirsty." Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. "I don't care what they say, I plan to quit any time," he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look, "To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day." Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. "So, you all get a chance." As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. "Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them." It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. "All right, everyone's presentations are done." "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me. "There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer." He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. "Still here?" Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. "I'm leaving." I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick, what's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. "Probably Sam." Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was. As the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1, if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.